Aaron was an adventurous young man who loved exploring the outdoors. He packed his gear early in the morning, excited for another weekend escape into nature. He didn't tell anyone where he was going, something he often did without thinking too much about it. Driving through the empty desert roads, he blasted music in his car, filming himself with his camcorder, laughing, joking, documenting the trip like he always did. When he reached his destination, he decided to sleep in and start his journey in the morning. When the sun came out, he took his bicycle and rode it through the mountains. When he got to the canyons, he stopped, parked his bicycle, and continued his journey deeper into the canyonlands on foot. Along the trail, he encountered two female hikers who were lost. He guided them toward the right path, then took them to a hidden underground pool he knew about. They all jumped in and laughed together, enjoying the moment. The girls invited him to a party later, but he told them he wasn't sure. He wanted to keep exploring. As they parted ways, Aaron waved goodbye, then continued climbing alone, slipping through narrow canyon walls, dropping down from ledges, squeezing through tight spaces. He filmed himself again while moving, talking about life, adventure, his love for nature, and his excitement for the climb ahead, completely unaware that just minutes later, his life was about to change forever. Aaron was climbing the canyon alone. When he leaned on a rock for support, he accidentally slipped and fell. During the fall, his arm got caught tightly between two rocks, trapping him completely. When he tried to pull his arm out, it wouldn't budge no matter how hard he pulled. He tried lifting the rock with his left hand, slamming his body against it, kicking it with his legs. But the rock didn't move at all. Only then did he realize he was truly trapped. Seeing that brute force was useless, he tried shouting for help. But the vast and desolate canyon was completely silent, not a single person in sight. He forced himself to calm down, then emptied his backpack and laid out everything he had. A watch, a pair of sunglasses, a camcorder, and the only useful thing, a small multi-tool knife. He decided to use the knife to chip away at the rock. But the stone was far harder than he imagined. He scraped and scraped for hours. His hands were numb, and the rock barely showed the slightest scratch. Worse yet, the tool slipped from his hand and fell to the ground. He tried bending down to reach it, but he couldn't. A simple action that was usually effortless had become impossible. He took off his shoe and tried grabbing it with his toes, but it was still too far. Finally, he used his foot to pinch a branch and hooked the knife back up to him, only to find the blade had already dulled. He could only continue sharpening it. This time, to avoid losing it again, he tied the knife to his waist with a rope. He kept grinding late into the night, but all he managed to scrape off were a few tiny bits of stone. He picked up his water bottle and took a slow, careful sip, letting the water sit in his mouth for a long time before swallowing. He had to ration it strictly, otherwise he would collapse even faster. To preserve his strength, he tried to sleep, but with his arm trapped, sleeping was nearly impossible. So he tossed the rope upward again and again. After dozens of attempts, he finally hooked it onto a protruding rock above. He tied the other end around his body to support some of his weight, finally giving his legs a moment of relief. Completely exhausted, he eventually drifted into sleep. But the canyon's drastic temperature drop woke him up shivering in the middle of the night. He had no choice but to keep moving to stay warm. The next morning, a beam of sunlight shone down. He quickly extended his hand toward it, trying to warm himself. In his daze, he seemed to see a childhood memory, sitting with his father on a windy cliff, watching the sunrise together, sharing that moment of hope and light. But the warmth faded just as quickly, dragging him back into harsh reality. He turned on his camcorder and began recording his situation. If he were to die here, he hoped that whoever found the camera would deliver the message to his family. After being trapped for 24 hours, Aaron's arm had already turned gray-blue from the lack of blood circulation. His food was almost gone, and he had only about 300 to 400 milliliters of water left. Suddenly, small rocks began falling from above. Aaron thought someone was passing by and immediately shouted for help. But there was no response. After the silence, he looked at the desperate, screaming version of himself in the camera and forced himself not to give up. Night 2 arrived quietly. He wrapped every piece of clothing he had around himself for warmth. After some struggling, he finally felt a bit better. He chewed on his dry rations while imagining himself at a party with his crush. If he weren't trapped here, he thought, maybe he could have even had a romantic encounter. But reality doesn't change with "what if?" He regretted not answering his mother's phone call before leaving. He regretted not telling his friends where he was going. But now, it was too late. The next day, Aaron continued with his self-rescue plan. He wrapped the rope around the boulder several times, tied it tightly, and connected it to another rope above using a carabiner. He created a simple pulley system, hoping to move the rock. But no matter how he pulled with his arm or pushed with his legs, the boulder didn't move at all. After exhausting himself for nothing, he grew even more desperate. His mind was filled with fantasies of water, beer, juice, anything. Unable to resist, he opened his bottle and drank a sip. Facing the camera, he analyzed the situation. His pulley system didn't work because the rope he brought was a stretchy climbing rope, too elastic to transfer force. And to move a rock this size, he would need at least 4 pulley sets and 8 strong men pulling together. He also realized something worse. His trapped arm might actually be supporting the rock. Any slight movement could cause it to clamp down even tighter. By now, Aaron had been trapped for 3 days. He had only 150 milliliters of water left. With no choice, he began collecting his own urine. He was growing extremely weak. After trying every possible method, Aaron made a terrifying decision: amputate his arm. He removed a cotton pad from inside a tube, tied it around his arm as a tourniquet, then used a safety clip to twist it tighter and tighter. He tried cutting into his arm with his knife, but the blade was so dull it couldn't even pierce the skin. He eventually had to stop. Exhausted and delirious, Aaron drifted into sleep again. Memories of his ex-girlfriend flashed through his mind one by one. Suddenly, a loud thunderclap jolted him awake. Dark clouds had gathered overhead. Then, raindrops began to fall. Aaron quickly opened his cup to collect water. But soon the rain grew heavier, forming a rushing stream that poured through the canyon crack. The water level rose rapidly, threatening to drown him. Just as he thought it was over, a miracle happened. The rock shifted from the force of the rising water. Aaron seized the chance and pulled his arm free, then swam upward with all his strength. He sprinted back to his car, drove desperately, and arrived outside his ex-girlfriend's house. He shouted her name over and over, crying uncontrollably. But she didn't respond at all. Then he realized, none of it was real. Everything that just happened was a dream. He didn't know how much time had passed. His water was gone. Suddenly, his heart began racing and his chest throbbed with pain. His body was warning him. He understood one thing clearly. He couldn't wait any longer. He drove the knife hard into his own arm. But the blade hit bone. He couldn't cut through it. Helpless, he pulled the knife back out. He dipped his fingers in his own blood and put it in his mouth. It didn't quench his thirst. His water was gone. He had no choice but to drink his own urine. The taste was unbearable. But it was his last hope of staying alive. As night approached, knowing rescue was unlikely, Aaron carved his own epitaph into the rock wall. Exhausted, he started hallucinating. Time felt like it was slowing down. Hunger, cold, and loneliness filled every second. Scenes from his life flashed before him, and his own life was fading away, just like the battery on his camera. Bit by bit, in his delirium, friends and family appeared before him. He couldn't tell if they were welcoming him or saying goodbye. The smell of death attracted a swarm of flies. The next morning, a beam of sunlight shone into the canyon. The half-conscious Aaron slowly opened his eyes and saw a little boy. They were playing together. He didn't know if it was his younger self or the future child he would never have. At that moment, Aaron's will to survive came back stronger than ever. There were too many regrets he couldn't leave behind. Too many things he still wanted to do. He could not die here. Aaron made up his mind. He would escape by cutting off his arm. He adjusted the angle, and with unbearable pain, snapped it. With a sickening crack, he broke his forearm bone. He tightened a tourniquet around the arm, and began cutting through his skin and muscle, little by little with the dull knife. The agony made him scream, and nearly pass out several times. But his desire to live was stronger than anything. At last, he freed himself from the massive rock that had trapped his fate. He stood there in shock, almost unable to believe what he had just done. After a long moment, he regained his senses and quickly bandaged the wound with what he had. Before leaving, he even filmed his severed arm and said thank you, as if he were finally free. He hurried out of the narrow crevice. The sunlight outside felt warm, like an electric shock hitting him. Then he found a small pool of water under the cliff. He desperately needed it. Luckily, other climbers had left anchor hooks on the rock. He used his rope to lower himself to the bottom. He plunged into the muddy pool. The water was filthy, but to him it was priceless. He licked it, scooped it, filled his bottle. After drinking to his fill, he refilled his bottle, threw away everything unnecessary, and continued walking. Days without food or clean water had left his body extremely weak. Every step was a struggle, but he didn't dare stop. He had to find help before he passed out from blood loss. Just when he was about to collapse, Aaron finally saw 3 figures ahead. With his last bit of strength, he yelled for help. They got him rescued by helicopter, and he survived. Much later, he sat surrounded by his family and friends, just like the vision he had seen in his hallucinations. His premonition had come true. This film is based on a true story. The real man behind it is legendary American climber Aaron Ralston. Though he lost part of his arm, his love for adventure never faded. He never let the incident stop him. So that's all from the movie 127 Hours. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like, subscribe and comment your thoughts down below.